Hey, what's up ladies and gents, SpoonyPizzas here, back with another eFootball 2024 video. With eFootball 2025 fast approaching, I wanted to share with you the best formation and tactics for new or beginner level players to help you get wins online, which means you'll be able to start acquiring those epic and player of the week players to boost your squad, which will help you become better at the game and getting even more wins. This information comes purely from my experience of playing newer or lesser skilled players who I found difficult to beat because of their chosen formation and tactics. I'll be sharing two formation tactics that work so well, and you make your choice depending on your opponent's tactics. In this video I won't have the best squads because as a new player it's unlikely you're going to have many players to choose from at your disposal. Maybe the odd epic or legend card here or there. So that's what I've done with my squad selection here too, and why I'm featuring the likes of Endrick, who's 72 overall rated up front in Division 3 and Division 4 gameplay. The first formation we're going to look at is the 4-5-1, and the manager you need is a quick counter playstyle. And the reason for this is that it's defensively the best for new players. Why? Because everyone drops back super quickly, your entire team, and you can defend the penalty box relatively easily. I must admit I do prefer possession when defending, but it is harder, and you can check my ultimate defending tutorial for tips on how to truly defend. The next reason for quick counter is that when you win possession of the ball, all of your players get forward quickly, and this is great for new players because it gives you options to pass to, and I find it much easier to score. The second formation and tactic is the 4-4-2, also a quick counter playstyle. The only time I would choose 4-4-2 over the 4-5-1 is if my opponent's formation has three centre backs. So formations like 3-6-1, 5-3-2, 5-2-3, anything like that, then go for the 4-4-2. Just so the reason being is that with the quick counter playstyle, your wide players are going to get forward quickly. So that overloads the wide positions, makes it easier to score, especially if your opponent is playing a 3-6-1. If they're playing a 3-6-1, then I'd recommend a target man or fox in the box to launch it up to over their six-man midfield, because playing through that six-man midfield is going to be very, very difficult. Then get the ball wide and either cross or shoot depending on the situation. There are 5 rules you must follow whilst using these tactics. Rule number 1, any opponent formations with wide players, then you must set defensive individual instructions to your fullbacks. However, it's not necessarily needed if you have defensive playstyle fullbacks, but if you do have spare individual instructions, then I'd set it anyway. Rule number 2, anyone with more central midfielders than you, make sure you bolster that midfield to gain an advantage. Meaning, if you face a narrow 4-4-2 diamond, make sure you have all 5 midfielders nice and central. If you come across 6 midfielders, that means they have 3 defenders. So play 4-4-2 like I mentioned earlier, with defensive on your fullbacks, or if you have defensive fullbacks, go for attacking instructions on your wide players. Ideally have a target man to launch the ball over the 6-man midfield, win the knockdown, and then go wide for crosses. Rule number 4, if you are playing a 4-4-2, the 2 strikers playstyles must be different to avoid occupying the same spaces during build-up, chance creation and goal scoring opportunities. Rule number 5, both centre backs must be build-up. Fullbacks, ideally defensive fullbacks, otherwise you may need to set them defensive through individual instructions. Now let me show you some division gameplay matches with these sort of tactics and instructions that I'm using, so you can just get a feel for it, and I'm going to talk you through that right now. As you can see, my first Division 3 opponent's team strength is much higher than mine, as like I said, I want to replicate what newer players might face off in their early eFootball career. My opponent is essentially playing a 4-2-4 here because Kevin De Bruyne is a whole player who will get high up the field. So it's even more important because of his advanced wide players to set defensive instructions on both my fullbacks, and we're going to show you earlier analysis of the impact this has. You're going to see that with just 2 players midfield, I should easily win this midfield battle. Now when you lose possession with the quick counter playstyle, the defensive line is at the halfway line, as you're going to see here. You can apply pressure here and defend early, which is what I recommend, but don't use secondary player press early in these early stages, as you want to avoid dragging any of your centre backs out of position. He did get a little fortunate with the tackles and my player's poor ball control, allowing him to advance down those wide positions. I dragged my centre back into the box to ensure it's a 2 versus 2 if he does cross the ball, and from there the amount of players in and around my penalty box now, due to the quick counter play style, makes it easy to defend in numbers and play little triangles to work my way out of the penalty box. My opponent has a really good pressing style, but he does overdo it, even in defence, making 1-2s my most obvious way of victory here, whilst his attacks resulting in going long to his wide forward players as quickly as possible. But this is where my defensive fullbacks came into play and I was able to stifle his wide game, and Ronaldo through the middle isn't going to be much of a threat with his lack of pace. And these 1-2s is what I was talking about. You know, I got a really good opportunity here, great save from the goalkeeper, and once again he goes wide, long, looking for his wide players again, but I'm easily able to win the header and then start my attack. Once again, looking for triangles, little 1-2s here and there, and he has got a sort of destroyer there in defence, which is going to be where I'm going to sort of look to exploit, because defensive destroyers are a nightmare in your backline. I'm going to make a video about that, and you know, whilst it worked there, you're going to see other examples where it's going to fall down and fail and cost him goals essentially in this match. But here, you know, just looking to regain my composure, switch the play from right to left, play it back, pull his players out of position. So I've got a numerical advantage now going forward here. And like I said, he does have really good pressing game here. So I just have to keep moving the ball. Be brave on the ball as well. Make sure you take touches, and especially with players that have got that ball control ability. And then eventually it will open up. I did get a little bit fortunate here with this goal, but it was coming. It was definitely coming. And then with that 5-man midfield, very narrow, you can see it's almost impossible to play through, especially with the likes of Kante, box to box, engine. And then as soon as he gives the ball up there, look at the numerical advantage in that wide possession. Loads of time to pick my spot and place it into the back of the net. Player play styles is also very important, and I should have touched on it a little bit more, but a mix of an orchestrator or an anchorman alongside a box-to-box midfielder is essential, both containing good defensive qualities along with player skills such as interception, blocker, first time pass, ideally through ball as well, along with a bonus of track back. That would be a really nice combination for those two players. Ahead of this combo, you need either a classic number 10 or a creative playmaker. The whole player I find will play too far up front and isn't really required with the quick counter play style for these formations and tactics. Now my opponent does really well here to pull one back. Lovely cross into Ronaldo for a simple finish. But I want you to watch here, and I want you to watch his destroyer centre back, because he's at fault for this next goal. But you can see here, just playing out, taking that a little touch just to draw players in sometimes. But here's his destroyer centre back charging out, and I was able to flick it around the corner. If that make that pass and I get away there, he's through. But watch this. Keep watching that destroyer centre back. See him come out there, and that just allowed that 1-2 to go through. And like I said, he was pressing at all stages. So any stage, no matter where it was on the pitch, what I would probably recommend to him is keep his pressing up to his sort of defensive third, but once you get to your back line, you no longer want to press, or stick a build-up player in there, and that way if you use the secondary player press, then he's not going to charge out. So a pretty dominant first half, and there's going to be another example here of why you shouldn't have a destroyer in your back line. Just watch his positioning here, little 1-2 around the corner, and why he's gone out there, I have no idea whatsoever. And it's basically cost him this penalty. He does actually save the penalty. Makes a good save. But yeah, I just don't understand why you'd have a destroyer. But from that save, unfortunately for him, I was able to score one of the luckiest goals I've ever scored. Off the post, off his defender, into the net. And then have one final chance of this game. Again, his sort of destroyer centre-back lagging behind there. Should be scoring that. But on to the next one. And this is going to be really interesting. Once again, you see the team strength. I'm facing a Division 5 player this time, so not to the Division 3 level that I was playing before. But I think this was a harder game. I'm playing a 4-4-2. One thing I probably would change next time is that I played an anchorman and I probably didn't need it. And because he's not using any wingers, I'm not going to apply any individual instructions for this 4-4-2. Up top, we have a deep lying forward in Endrick, and Bebeto is a dummy runner. The wingers doesn't really matter on the playstyle as long as it's not really a cross specialist, because they simply be too wide. You want them cutting in, and then N'Golo Kante, box to box. Tonali is a anchorman. In defence, we've got 2 build-up players and 2 offensive fullbacks. So let me just break this down for you from a tactical point of view. So if I look at this here, through the middle, immediately I can see I've got a 2 versus 1 down the middle, and my fullbacks have got to deal with the sort of 2 wider players. He does get a little bit lucky here because my defender took an age to turn and deal with that tackle that he made. So that was a bit unfortunate. But going forward, if we look at this, you know, this is why I do like the 4-4-2. Your wingers get involved. The fake stunning shot there, and then Sane is just able to, like I said, with those wingers, you don't want cross specialists. You want them inside the box, providing penetration. So again, going forward, he didn't have too many options. It was pretty easy to deal with that threat. And then with the 4-4-2, because you're a quick counter, it almost becomes like a 4-2-4 at the same time. So defensively, it's a 4-4-2, but going forward, it's more like a 4-2-4. And that's what you want when players are playing with 3 centre-backs. You want to attack those wide areas. I win the penalty and put that into the back of the net. Okay, so now let me break down the next bit of play. So just want you to see here why this formation and tactic works so well. Look at that, I've got 6 against 4 defenders there. And as he tries to play the ball out, because of that pressure from the front, sort of hurries him and he makes that mistake. Once again, look how many options I've got here, who I can pass to. I can already see tons of options, but I tend to recycle the sort of ball around, trying to look for that opening. I look for the ball down into the channel, but he intercepts. But again, it's that press from the front line that caused me to win the ball and then end up wrapping up the game, adding a third. The next match, I'm going to face off against the Division 4 player. Once again, my team strength much less than his. Okay, so here he's got a 4-4-2 diamond. And remember what I said about my rules. You don't want to be outnumbered in midfield. So here, I would actually have less men in the midfield area than he has. So what I'm going to do is make an adjustment here, just so I've got enough like packed in that middle to dominate his diamond 4. It's important to have that numerical advantage. Whilst I have the wingers, they will be nullified by his fullbacks, which are probably going to be set on defensive. So I figured, let's outnumber him in the sort of central area midfield and try and dominate him from that perspective. And because he is not playing with any wide players or any wingers, that means that I can set attacking on both of those attacking midfielders. Another important point here is the play styles. So I've got 2 orchestrators alongside a box-to-box midfielder and Kante. Ahead of them, I've got a classic number 10 and a creative playmaker. And as you can see here, I'm going to make the change to Xerxes, who is a deep lying forward. And the reason for that is because I want him to drop a little bit deeper and link in those 2 attacking midfielders who are going to break into the box off him. And it's going to confuse the defenders. And we're going to see that here. So as I play the ball forward into my creative playmaker, he puts the ball around the corner into that deep lying forward who's just dropped off that defensive line. It was supposed to go back to my creative playmaker, but Kimmich got involved, and then my classic number 10 said thank you very much for the rebound. In this game, I played horribly defensively. I just had one of those games where it was just not my day. It was actually the first game of my session, so, you know, those sort of things happen. But that ball out there was catastrophic, absolutely catastrophic, and he pulls one back, so we're level on the score. Now, with those attacking instructions set to my attacking midfielders, you can see they're up alongside Xerxes there, ready to support. But this is just classic number 10 magic from Arda Güler. Look at this, little drop of the shoulder and into the back of the net. Just a little bit of magic. Sometimes you need that And you're going to see here why it's important to outnumber someone in midfield. So he tries to play it through once, intercepted. I tried to break out with 1-2s. He gets the ball. Once again, I've got the midfield dominance once more. Win that battle. Again, 1-2s across his back line. Deep line forward there, just dropping in just to add the extra layer to that attack. And then you can get it wide, crossed into the box and put it into the back of the net. And now in this next clip, you're going to see why I wouldn't recommend fullback finishers. Because what happens is when you have the ball, they become inverted. So they will play inwards. But what's happened here is the transitions happened. And Grimaldo, as a fullback finisher, has ended up on the inside of my centre-back. And for some reason, he's not made any attempt to intercept that pass because his stats are too low, making it 3-2. But then my opponent does really well here. He wins the ball off Xerxes. He's a bit tighter this time. And great little ball out wide. But that vision to see that player, I did not even see that player. I thought it was a great bit of vision from my opponent. So we didn't get the result we wanted, but we did try and press for that winner. But next match, we face a Division 5 opponent this time, who's playing essentially a 4-5-1. You know, you could consider that left wing forward to be, you know, further forward, but essentially it's a 4-5-1, especially because considering he's using a possession-based manager. So I set defensive on both my fullbacks to deal with his wingers. And with a possession-based manager, you'll find the quick counter manager does have the advantage, providing you're playing a more defensive system. And the reason for that is because your players will break forward quicker and your players will get back quicker than the possession-based system. And this initial attack from him shows you, you know, defensively pretty solid. Easily able to clear that. And don't be afraid, you know, if you're facing a 5 in midfield, and even if you've got a 5 in midfield, don't be afraid to go long over the top, because, you know, you can carve out chances like this and then build once you reach their penalty box. But it's a pretty weak header from Endrick. The ball down the line here. And then another one forward into that classic number 10. Drives into the box. Hendrick picks up the ball and works a lovely little bit of magic here. Look at this. From the 72 overall rated player. He feels really good. Now, when you are facing a quick counter play style, the worst thing you can do is like lose the ball in your own half. So you can see here, he just kicks the ball forward pretty aimlessly. He loses the ball there. And look at all the players I've got in the box. His defender tries to deal with it, but ends up putting it into his own net. Look at the numbers with this quick counter play style. The players that break forward, as soon as you win that ball, and this is where most of your goals are going to come from, where players sort of try to play out and they keep losing the ball in their own half. And if you can keep that pressure on them, that is where the majority of your goals are going to come from. Those sort of turnovers, and it's another goal. In my opinion, that is Endrick's goal, but it went to the goalkeeper. Not sure he wanted that, to be honest. My opponent does put a goal back here. He just get a little bit lucky. That sort of deflection going to his player, and then my fullback just completely switching off. Another reason to have a defensive fullback, and there he goes, putting it into the back of the net. So having high defensive awareness is important in those fullback positions. After conceding the goal, notice how I switch my attacking strategy in the bottom left corner. You notice it's just turned to a red. That means I really want to try and wrap this game up and get the fourth. And now with the additional players up front, once I counter, a little 1-2 here with Anthony. And he's away. And look at the options I've got going forward. That's because of the attacking strategy. Able to cross it and score and win this match. Anyway, that is it for this video, ladies and gents. Hopefully you guys found this informative and useful. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel.